My contention is, when I was making it, it was like, you're making this film, and the idea was that we're all responsible for this, that his sacrifice was for all mankind.
Mel Gibson shared a story about sacrifice and strange occurrences that left Joe Rogan speechless during their long meeting. While most critics focused on the intense scenes, they missed the deep symbols and the real-life pain that the actors had to endure.
It was a great movie, but
Yeah.
it seemed like there was resistance to that movie.
Oh yeah, no, there was
Which I thought was very strange. There was like Hollywood resistance to that movie. Like people didn't like that you were making it.
Things get even crazier when you look at the sequel that Gibson is planning, which promises to go even deeper into the spiritual world. What most people do not realize is that the making of this film changed the lives of everyone involved in ways that cannot be explained by science. This is the breakdown of what really happened when the lights were off and the cameras were rolling. Silencing the director. The movie was a massive hit, but there was a huge amount of resistance against it from the very start. Mel Gibson was on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about the sequel to his famous religious film. This sparked a huge debate because the most controversial movie of the 100 years contained secrets that nobody was meant to find. When Mel Gibson sat down with Joe Rogan, something very special happened in that room. The talk started in a normal way, touching on how to make movies, personal beliefs, and the way things work in the big offices of film companies. But then Gibson began sharing what really went on behind the scenes, and the whole place went quiet. Rogan is a man who has talked to leaders, fighters, and people who tell on their bosses, but he was clearly surprised by what he heard. This was not a fake talk for more clicks. Gibson was pulling back a sheet that the industry had worked very hard to keep closed. Once you see what everyone missed about this movie, it is impossible to view it the same way again. The story that nobody wanted to be told helps us understand what Gibson was showing the world. We have to go back to the very start to see the full picture. This movie was never meant to be just another story about the past. Gibson was not looking for pretty shots or a story that everyone could guess. He wanted something real and raw that would grab people and not let them go until they truly understood what a big sacrifice looks like. It was like making a film where the main idea was that everyone is responsible for what happened. Gibson explained that the point was to show that the event was not just a piece of history, but something that matters to every single person watching today. He spent years reading the holy books and looking at every small detail about the final hours of that life. But he went much deeper than most people would ever dare to go. He looked at very old writings and deep studies to join together not just what happened, but the weight behind it all. He wanted to show the spiritual fight and the human cost that was hidden inside every moment of pain. The very first scene shows you exactly what kind of movie this is going to be. It takes place in a dark garden where the shadows are moving in. The main figure is kneeling in prayer while his best friends fall asleep around him. The feeling of being alone is very strong. Here is someone who is seen as very powerful, but also very human, with sweat like drops of blood as a heavy weight sits on him. Then a dark figure appears in the shadows, whispering bad thoughts and doubts. A snake comes out, but it is crushed under a heel, which is a sign of an old promise from a long time ago. Every single part of the movie has a secret meaning. Every shadow is put there for a reason. Every word that is spoken has a deep layer that gives a reward to those who pay close attention. This was not a movie made for someone to watch while doing other things. Gibson made a film that makes you lean in and think about things that are much bigger than just yourself. Some people think that Gibson might have even found ancient scrolls that are hidden away by those in power. These theories suggest that the film was actually a warning about a secret group that has been controlling human history for thousands of years. Gibson hinted that the resistance he felt was not just about money, but about keeping a lid on certain truths that are meant to stay buried. He suggested that there are certain frequencies in the film that were designed to wake up parts of the human mind that have been asleep for a long time. This sounds like something out of a science fiction story, but when you look at how hard people tried to stop him, it makes you wonder. He told Rogan that he had to be very careful with how he showed certain things because the world was not ready for the full truth. This leads many to believe that the movie is actually a map to a hidden spiritual reality that we are all living in without knowing it. The way the shadows move in the garden scene is said to match the patterns of energy found in old stone temples. If you look closely at the background of many shots, there are symbols that do not belong to the history of the time. These are signs of a war that has been going on between light and darkness since the beginning of time. Gibson talked about how he felt like he was being guided by a force that he could not see or name. He felt like he was just a tool being used to bring a message to the world that had been forgotten. The pushback from the big studios was just the physical part of a much bigger fight. He believes that the movie was a turning point for the world, and that it started a shift in how people think about their own souls. Something much darker was lurking behind the scenes, and it was waiting for its moment to strike. Forces beyond control. Hollywood players tried to hide the truth, but the numbers showed that the public was ready for something real. During his talk with Rogan, Gibson showed something that most people never talk about in the open. This explains why this movie faced such a hard time from the very first day. He saw a pattern in the movie business, which was a double standard that worked without anyone saying it out loud. Movies that looked at different world beliefs were usually treated with a lot of respect and care. But when it came to Christian stories, the reaction was totally different. People were quick to doubt it or act like it did not matter. Gibson said that this is the one belief that people feel they are allowed to talk down to. He noted that people will act nice to all kinds of different ideas until it comes to this one. The projects were called old or out of style for people living today. The bosses at the big companies thought that nobody wanted to see this kind of story anymore. Gibson felt this pushback in a way that hurt. Big companies that should have wanted to give money to a famous director suddenly stopped calling him back. His phone stayed silent and meetings were canceled at the last minute. Friends he had worked with for many years started to stay away from him. The message was very clear to see. This story was not welcome, and the man trying to tell it was not welcome either. The industry did not just think the movie would fail to make money, they actually hated the story itself. But Gibson did not walk away from the fight. Because of how he was raised, this was more than just a job to him. It was a mission. When the normal money went away, he paid for the whole thing himself. He put together a group of people who believed in the project and were not scared of people being mad. What came out of that hard time surprised everyone. The movie became one of the biggest hits ever for a film with a mature rating. This proved that millions of people were hungry for exactly the kind of bold story that the bosses said nobody wanted. The making of this movie was anything but normal. What Gibson told Rogan sounds almost impossible to believe at first. Things happened on the set that the workers still cannot explain even now. The man playing the lead role had to deal with real physical pain that showed up on the screen in a way that computer effects could never copy. The wooden cross he had to carry weighed more than 30 pounds. During one part of the filming, it pulled his shoulder completely out of its place. In another scene where he was supposed to be hit with whips, he was actually hit 2 times by mistake. One hit was so hard it took the breath out of his body and left his skin raw and bleeding. His pain was not just acting, it was very real. And that real feeling shows in every part of the finished movie. Then, the lightning started to happen. An assistant was hit by lightning 2 times while they were filming. The lead actor was also reportedly hit while he was on the cross for the final scene, but he walked away without being hurt at all. People on the crew were shocked by how much electricity was in the air. Some people believe that the lightning was not just a natural event, but a direct sign from the heavens. There are theories that the lightning was actually an attempt by dark forces to destroy the film and the people making it. Others say it was a form of cosmic energy that was being pulled into the set because of the intense focus on the spiritual story. Gibson told Rogan that the air felt thick and heavy, like something was pressing down on them the whole time. He mentioned that several times, the cameras would stop working for no reason at all, only to start up again as soon as they began to pray. There were also reports of people seeing figures in the shadows of the set that were not part of the crew. These figures would appear and disappear in the blink of an eye, leaving everyone with a cold feeling in their chests. Some believe that the set was a literal portal to another world. Gibson hinted that the locations they chose were actually ancient sites with a lot of spiritual energy. He said that the ground beneath them felt alive, and that the wind would blow in directions that made no sense according to the weather. One theory suggests that the actors were not just performing, but that they were actually being used as vessels for the spirits of the people they were playing. This would explain why the pain felt so real, and why the emotions were so intense. Gibson said that there were times when he did not even have to give directions because the actors already knew exactly what to do, as if they were being told by someone else. The crew felt like they were being watched by something that was not human. This created an environment where everyone was on edge, but also very focused. They knew that they were doing something that was much bigger than just entertainment. The energy on the set was so strong that it reportedly healed some of the local people who were just standing nearby. These stories have been kept quiet for a long time, but Gibson is finally letting the world know what really happened. The signs were everywhere for those who were brave enough to look at the sky. Success against all odds. Even with all the physical pain, the crew felt like they were part of something that was guided by a higher power. Lightning is often seen as a sign of great power in old stories and books. It shows up at very important times in history. The crew could not explain why it was happening so much around them. These events made everyone feel like the line between the normal world and a hidden world was becoming very thin. People began to ask if something more than just making a movie was going on. These changes were not just about physical things. One actor who played the man who did the betrayal started the job not believing in anything spiritual. By the time they were done filming, he had changed his mind and became a believer. He was moved by spending months thinking about what it means to be a friend and what it means to be forgiven. Another actress was secretly having a baby during the filming. This was like a hidden sign of new life and hope mixed in with the story of pain they were telling. Gibson also talked about reports of people being healed in ways that doctors could not explain. One young girl who had bad brain shakes went a whole month without any problems after being on the set. Others said they could see or hear better. Whether these were miracles or just lucky events, the people working there were sure they had been part of something much bigger than a normal job. One scene shows exactly what Gibson wanted to do with his art. After the main event, the body is held in the arms of the mother. This looks just like a very famous statue from a long time ago. The shot shows sadness and beauty at the same time. It shows human pain and a bigger purpose. It goes past just one belief to talk to everyone about love and loss. When the movie finally came to theaters, the critics were split into two groups. One very famous critic gave it a perfect score and said it was the most intense thing he had ever seen. He wrote that he never truly understood the depth of the story until he saw this version. That critic usually liked to find problems with movies, but he could not find many here. Other experts praised the film for being honest and having a big goal, but a lot of people were still very mad. Before the movie even came out, some leaders looked at the script and were worried. They were afraid the story could make people think badly about certain groups of people. These were serious points to think about because history shows how stories can be used to hurt others. Gibson said his goal was to show that everyone in the world was responsible, not just one group. This debate showed how hard it is to tell a story that so many people care about. Some wild theories suggest that the film was actually censored by a secret organization that manages all human knowledge. These theories say that Gibson had to cut out nearly 40 minutes of footage that showed the actual presence of celestial beings on the screen. It is said that the raw film contained images of light that the human eye cannot normally see, but the camera captured it perfectly. Gibson hinted to Rogan that there were things in the original edit that were so powerful they caused people to pass out during screenings. He said that the power of the image was too much for the average person to handle. This has led many to believe that the movie is actually a form of spiritual technology. By watching the film, people are reportedly being coded with a new level of understanding that bypasses their logical brain. There are rumors that the music used in the film contains hidden frequencies that are meant to protect the listener from negative energy. Gibson worked with the composers for a long time to make sure that every sound was perfect. He believed that sound is just as important as the image when it comes to telling a spiritual story. Some people think that the film has a mind of its own. There are stories of the movie playing in theaters when the power was out, or the screen showing images that were not in the digital file. This sounds crazy, but Gibson's own stories about the set make you wonder what is possible. He told Rogan that the film was meant to be a seed planted in the minds of the public. He believes that the success of the film was a sign that the world is ready to move past the control of the big studios and the elites who run them. He sees a future where art is used to truly set people free instead of just keeping them entertained. The way the audience reacted was a huge wake-up call for Hollywood. They realized that they could no longer control what people wanted to see. The power was shifting back to the people and to the artists who were brave enough to tell the truth. The light from the screen was beginning to reveal things that had been hidden for too long. eternal life, on screen. While the critics argued about the details, the audience was lining up around the block to see the truth for themselves. Some experts noted that Gibson added things that were not in the original books. For example, there were scenes with scary children following the man who did the betrayal. Gibson said this was just his way of showing a spiritual truth using images instead of just facts. He used the language of movies and symbols to look at guilt and the fight between good and evil. The movie was like walking a tightrope between a history lesson and a deep talk about faith. Different people expected different things, and they all left with different feelings. Some thought it changed their lives for the better. Others thought it was a problem. Almost nobody felt like it was just a boring movie. The big fight about the film only made more people want to see it. People who would never go to a religious movie felt they had to see what the fuss was about. Churches bought thousands of tickets. Leaders talked about it in their weekend meetings. News stations ran stories about every single detail. Gibson had made something that could not be ignored. And he is not done with these themes yet. He is actually just getting started on a new plan. During his talk with Rogan, he said that for 6 or 7 years, he and another writer have been working on something even bigger. They are making a movie about coming back to life. It will not be a normal story told from start to finish. Instead, it will be a look at the massive battle between light and dark across all of time. Gibson said the project is very big and covers everything from the fall of angels to the end of the first group of followers. This is not just a second part to the first movie. It is an expansion into a world that movies usually never try to touch. Gibson wants to is looking at very old books and deep debates to make a story that makes people see things in a new way. For him, these stories are not just old tales. He thinks they are real history because of how the first followers were willing to give up their lives rather than say it was a fake. He asked Rogan a very direct question. He asked who would die for something they knew was a lie. He believes that question proves that the stories are true. The idea of someone coming back to life is still the hardest part for many people to believe. Someone being gone and then walking out of a grave goes against the rules of nature. Gibson says that for a long time he just believed it because other people did. But as he got older, he looked for his own answers. That personal search now guides everything he makes. He does not want to just talk to people who already agree with him. He wants everyone to think about the big questions of why we are here, and what happens when everything ends. Some wild theories about the sequel say that Gibson is actually going to film in locations that are considered holy portals. These theories suggest that the camera will capture actual dimensions of existence that are normally hidden from us. Gibson mentioned to Rogan that the new movie will look into what happened during those 3 days when the body was in the tomb. He hinted that he will show the harrowing of hell, where a war was fought in the deep places of the earth. Some believe that Gibson has access to secret documents from the Vatican that describe these events in detail. These documents are said to contain descriptions of spiritual beings that are more terrifying than anything seen in a horror movie. Gibson said that he wants to show the true nature of evil and how it was defeated. He believes that the world needs to see this battle to understand the hope that comes after. There are even rumors that the film will use special light frequencies that can help heal the viewers while they watch. This is part of the spiritual technology theory that follows Gibson's work. He told Rogan that the sequel will be the most ambitious thing he has ever done. He expects even more resistance this time, but he is ready for it. He believes that the truth cannot be stopped anymore. The power of the first film was just the beginning of a much larger shift in the world. He sees a future where the line between art and reality is blurred, and where movies are used to wake up the human spirit on a global scale. The story of the resurrection is the ultimate victory, and Gibson wants to show that victory in a way that shakes the world to its core. The truth was about to walk out into the light and change the world forever. Reality changed forever. Plans for the next movie suggest that the visual effects will be unlike anything seen in the history of cinema. So what was the secret that surprised Joe Rogan so much? What made a man who is usually very calm show so much emotion? It was not just one thing. It was the weight of the whole story put together. It was the truth that making the movie required Gibson to stand alone against a whole industry that wanted the story to disappear. It was the truth that strange things happened during the filming that do not have a normal explanation. It was the truth that art made with a real heart can change lives more than a movie made just for money. It was the truth that standing up for what you believe in means you might lose everything you have built. Some stories are worth any cost. These truths cut through the noise of our busy world. They reminded Rogan and his millions of listeners that being honest still matters in a world that is often fake. It showed that people still make things for reasons other than just making a dollar. It proved that being sure of yourself can move mountains. Sometimes the most debated stories are the ones that need to be told the most. The journey Gibson took is something that is very rare today. He refused to change his mind to make others happy. He refused to play it safe. He refused to let the people in charge tell him which stories are allowed to be told. The movie makes viewers look at hard things like pain and what it means to be saved. It does not give easy answers. Instead, it makes us think about human nature and the price of a second chance. These are questions that most movies try to avoid because they are too hard. More than 20 years after it first came out, the movie still makes people argue. Some see it as a masterpiece. Others see it as very problematic. Both sides have points that make sense. Great art makes people have strong reactions because it touches something deep inside us. The talk between Gibson and Rogan showed layers of truth that most famous people never talk about. It showed that behind every big debate is a human story of a man trying to do his best. It reminded us that the world has mysteries that we cannot fully explain with just what we can see or touch. It showed that being open and honest has the power to change how people think. That is what everyone missed about this movie. It was not just a film. It was a man betting everything he had on a story the world tried to stop. And in the end, he won. The hidden truth is not hidden anymore. It is right there for anyone who is willing to look and listen. We have to wonder if we are ready for the next part of this journey. The things that cost us the most are often the things that change us the most. Some people believe that the film was actually a test for humanity. It was a way to see who was still connected to the truth and who had been lost to the noise of the modern world. Gibson hinted that the film acts as a mirror, showing us who we really are. If we can handle the truth of the story, then we are ready for the next level of existence. This is the ultimate wild theory that suggests the movie is part of a divine plan to save the world. Gibson sees himself as just one part of that plan. He is ready to keep fighting until the very end. The hidden facts that he shared with Rogan are just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more that we do not know yet. But as we move forward, the light will continue to reveal the truth. We just have to be brave enough to look at it. The victory is already won. We just have to realize it. Do you think a movie can actually have spiritual power over the people who watch it, or is it all just a coincidence? Let us know what you think in the comments below, because this is a topic that never gets old. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the secrets of Hollywood and the stories that the big studios do not want you to see.